But the reality is the documents that form this country aren't specifically Christian documents, but they're informed by a biblical worldview.
When you think about where we are with the election coming up, this has less to do with political parties, but more of us as Americans. This idea that there's separation of the church and state, there's nothing biblical in our Constitution and founding. Could you speak to how that's interwoven, what the founders' intent was? And my comment, the second part of this question, is they've said, the founders in their writings, that this country doesn't work if you don't have a virtuous population and a literate one. And it seemed that there's been a conscious effort over the last decades to extract both of these things from us. And that second part is really about spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
Is that happening, or maybe your opinion of that? And then how do we as Christians, not necessarily fight against it, but how do we get active and not passive in involvement in our government, in our country?
Yeah.
Again, less to do with political parties, but more as Christians.
Sure. Can you tell me your name again?
Yeah, Kendall Qualls.
Hi, Kendall. Great question. Let me sort of glom onto the last part of your question, if you don't mind. And if you wouldn't mind staying there, I'm going to be able to see you as I talk. I like the way you put it. How do we get active and not passive as opposed to fighting? I don't think we have any problem fighting. I got to say, just if you have a Twitter account, you'll find out within 10 seconds. Christians have no problem getting angry at anybody. We're pretty angry people now. I get why, and I get all the issues. But the active part, I like the way you put that. I think that's put so well, is that it's not a matter of fighting and shaking your fist and standing up for your rights and stomping and saying, we're going to do this because I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore. It's not that. It's to offer a better story. We need to get active in offering a better alternative to what's out there. Yes, there are things that are making it very difficult to be a Christian. For example, if someone asked me, what am I worried about with the future? I have some worries. I'm an optimist, by the way. I actually am quite optimistic. I really am. Because I've seen the college kids at Yale and Berkeley and University of Michigan and Indiana and other places come to that microphone, and they've engaged in the post-truth bender, and they're in the grisly hangover now, and they don't want the hair of the dog. They want the truth. I've seen it. I have seen it. And when you offer them the truth in a way that is intellectually solid and emotionally compelling, you do what Blaise Pascal said. Pascal said that men despise religion because they fear that it may be true. The trick is to show them that religion is worthy of reverence and respect. Next, make it attractive. Make good people wish it were true, and then show them that it is. This is an art, and we need to re-engage in that art. And I think that's what we have been missing for the past maybe 15 years. Now, as far as when it comes to the foundations of this country, there is some muddled history not muddled history in terms of it's not known, but there were some founding fathers who were deists, and there were some founding fathers who were Christians. And there were some founding fathers who were Christians and also hypocrites. And we can't get away from the fact that Jefferson owned slaves and so did Washington. It's pretty tough to get past that. However, that doesn't mean that given enough time, their thinking might have evolved the more they actually thought through the Christian implications of what they were seeing, and even seen and witnessed the birth of the abolitionist movement, a movement, by the way, that was birthed by Christians, including in England through Wilberforce and the various abolitionists here in the United States. But you look at it's not a founding document in terms of its legality, it's a founding document in terms of its intentionality, is the Declaration of Independence. Let's go there before the Constitution. So Declaration of Independence actually makes a statement. It says that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Creator part, let's put that aside for a moment. What I want to ask someone who basically doesn't believe that God can be the foundation of a country like ours, it's a completely secular country, is this idea of inalienable rights. And a right to be inalienable, what it means is, the legal term inalienable essentially means something that cannot be taken away. It can't be alienated from you. It's inalienable. It stays with you. So you have certain inalienable rights that cannot be taken from you. So that means something very important. If a right is inalienable, what that means is that it can't be taken away from you by the state, by a collection of people, or any one person. Which means that if it can't be taken away by those people, it wasn't given to you by the state, by a collection of people, or any one person. Where did it come from? It didn't come from evolution. It didn't come by chance. See, rights are moral things. They're moral categories. And so if a right is a moral category, and that you have it and I have it, and it can't be taken away, it can be violated. The rights of the slaves were not taken away, they were violated. But they still had the right to freedom, even when they weren't able to express that right. If a moral category like a right is inalienable, it has to come from a source that is above all government. And that source above all government has to be God. The founders knew this, which is why they created a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But the people themselves were a nation under God, because the people weren't even the divine authority. The people are not the supreme authority in this country. Now, they are legally, I get that, but a people that submits themselves to a higher authority than themselves will govern themselves according to that morality. And the founders knew that. And that's what makes not only the Declaration, but the Constitution that succeeded it a document that is worth paying attention to. Because it is based on the principle that two things, this is interesting, that people are inherently valuable and people can't be trusted. That's the biblical story about humanity. We're sinners. There's checks and balances in the Constitution because the framers recognized the inherent sinful condition of human beings. That's why there's not a monarchy here. There's a constitutional republic because we can't be trusted. And we knew that. So I can go on and on and on, but the reality is the documents that form this country aren't specifically Christian documents, but they're informed by a biblical worldview. Otherwise, they wouldn't make no sense. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.